Hi, I'm Rhonda from Tacoma Public Library. We're talking about how to build a better resume. Welcome back if you've already seen the first two videos in our series. In the first video, we talked about what is a resume and what content should be on the resume. And in the second video, we talked about format, what should live where on the page. If you haven't seen those videos yet, I hope that you'll go over to the Tacoma Public Library YouTube channel and take a look for those. So today in the third video, we're going to talk about style. How can you add a little extra style to the page to keep your reader engaged and to make your information a little bit more appealing looking? When we talk about style, we're talking about less is more. When we talk about style, we're talking about the features built into the word processing program that you're using, which might be Microsoft Word or Google Docs. We're talking about exciting features like font size, font style, section breaks, headings, margin settings, those types of things. There could be more, but just remember, less is more. Let me go ahead, I'll start to show you what I'm talking about.
Adding style to a resume can be really easy, and when we think about all of the style features that Microsoft Word has and Google Docs, there are so many you can really get artistic and fancy. But with resumes, that's not our goal. We want to use the style features that make our resume really readable and easy to navigate. So let's start at the top, and that is with your name. Your name should appear larger than the rest of the text on the page. We want it to pop, and when we move on to our live document, I'll show you some of the sizes you might consider popping up to. Your name is your brand, and we want that to appear larger and stick in the mind of the person reading your resume. Next, we want to consider the font style we use. We're going to keep it simple, and the recommended styles are Calibri, Arial, Times New Roman, and Tacoma. There are others you might consider, but these are great places to start. Use a font size that's no larger than 12 and no smaller than 10. Anything larger than 12 starts to be too big, and you might not be able to keep everything onto that one page, if that's your goal. Anything smaller than 10 really is just difficult for people to read, and our goal is to make it easy to read the resume. You want to do your best to balance the white space and text on the page. Use style features that will help you with this, like bullets, italics, and underlining, but use them sparingly. Documents that have so much text on the page that it's almost daunting to start to read them, they're going to be troublesome for hiring managers, and they're not going to cast you in the best light. You want to do your best to avoid spelling errors or any errors, and also a lack of consistency with the styles that you decide to employ. So for that reason, after you've created your resume and applied the styles, have somebody check it for you and make sure that those errors or lack of consistencies just don't exist. And then just a reminder, with your resume, make sure you've chosen a format that works best for you. Chronological, functional, or combined are the most popular ones to be choosing from. This is a step that we should actually be past once we get to adding style to the resume. So if you need to review formats, you can go back to video 2, or if this is something you haven't watched yet, I recommend that you watch our second video of this series. A little bit more about these special features. Again, we want to think about working with our font, adjusting style and size. How are we going to treat our headings? The use of bold, italics, all capitals, color, underlining, maybe adding some borders to the resume, and we can work with our margins to try to fit everything onto a single page, again, if that's a goal that we have. These are all things that you should consider using with your resume. But remember, less is more. Not according to this sentence as I have it typed, of course, but that's because it's an example of how using too much can be a distraction. And the last thing we want to do is have somebody be distracted from the great information that's on our page with unnecessary features. So use just enough of the style features to help your reader navigate your resume easily. Next, we're going to take a look at just a blank document that it is a resume but has no style features assigned to it just yet. So here's a resume with raw data, It has everything where I want it to live on the page, but it's just very boring right now because I've assigned nothing special to the text or the spacing. Let's move on and take a look at what something like this could look like just by employing a few style features. This resume now is it contains the exact same content as the previous slide, but I've used bold features, I've underlined some text, I've used bulleted lists, I've used the tab key on the keyboard to space dates over, and I've used some italicizing. So just with a little bit of knowledge how to work within Microsoft Word, you can come out with a simple, very basic document, but have it look really great and easy to read. Next, we're going to go on to Microsoft Word into a live document, and I'll show you how you can easily apply these styles. Now we're taking a look at a document in Microsoft Word. This is a resume I put together that has no style applied to it at all. I have everything I want to appear on the resume, and I do have it in the order of the format I've chosen. And the format I chose was a combination style. So I'll just scroll through here to show you what we have. I've got my person at the top, name, contact information. I moved on to a highlighted skills section. There's our heading. The next heading is work history with that first position, second position at McDonald's, and a third position, which is a self-employed position, and then education. And notice this spills over onto the second page. It doesn't quite use up all of the second page, so I'm wondering, as I start to make pages to this document, can I get all my information onto a single page? It's not absolutely necessary. If you have enough information that you want to or need to share to show you're the best candidate for the position you're applying to, go on to the second page if necessary. However, make sure you're sharing your best information up near the top of the first page. Well, let's get started. When we talked about some of the style features you should consider using in a resume, those are listed here on the Home tab. There's the B for bold, italics. Here's your font style drop-down menu, and font size. And we're also going to use today the center feature, bullets, and border, and also change case. There's also a button I like to turn on when I'm working on documents. It's called the Show Hide button. And what it does is it shows you how you're using your space on the page. This character indicates that you've hit the Enter key. So notice I have one here. If I saw two of these, it just indicates I've hit Enter twice. It's a double space. And then you might see these dots right here. Those indicate the number of times I've hit the space bar. I'll turn it off for now. So we'll start off with my person's name, Jane Smith. I'm going to highlight that line, and I'm going to center it, and I'm going to increase that size at least maybe up to 26. I might change that later. And then to save space, I'm going to get my contact information elements on the same line. I opted to not have the mailing address on this resume, but I do want my contact information to be centered on the page underneath Jane Smith's name. I want to bump the size up a little bit so it matches the name a little bit more proportionately. And then I've got a blue squiggly line, which is just telling me there's a spacing issue. I have a bunch of spaces there. So I am going to add a bullet between the email address and the phone number. I just think that looks nice. So I'm going to the Insert tab, over to Symbols, and there's my bullet. Then I'll hit space. I put a space after the email address, so I want to make sure I have a space after the bullet. I've got a space on either side. You might notice that when I hit the space bar after the email address, it made my email address a hyperlink. So I can get rid of that. It's a good thing to get rid of that by placing my mouse on top, right-clicking, and click on Remove Hyperlink. And now that's just straight black text. I also want to do one more thing with this area. I highlight the contact information line, click on Home, and now I'm coming over to the Borders feature, and I want to add a bottom border. And that just makes a nice distinction between the top area and everything else that follows. The next thing I'll do is make changes to my headings on the page. Highlighted skills, work history, and education down below. I'm going to select this first one, highlighted skills, hold down my control button and click on work history, and do the same thing with education, so that I just have to make the change once and it will apply to all three of them. I want these to be uppercase, so I'm coming here to the uppercase feature or the change case feature, selecting uppercase, and I want them to be bold. And I think that looks nice. The next thing I'll work on is within each of my work positions. Let's just make this information a little more organized. I'm going to highlight the line with employer name, location, and dates worked. First thing I'll do is make this line bold. I'll click before location and tab over a little, and tab over also the dates worked. For the job title, I've already used the bold feature enough. I think I'll make the job title italicized. So everything I've done in this work position, I need to do consistently in the next two. So bold, tab, italics. And that's the work area. If I come down to education, it's not quite the same as the work positions, but there's no reason I can't use that same spacing. And there we go. You notice now as we move up through the page, we have a lot of nice white space. And we've maintained that. It makes it easy for our reader to not feel overwhelmed with a lot of text on the page. That may be hard to avoid for some folks with lots of experience. So the challenge for you is to just find ways to add these styles into the document, but maintain white space where you can so that it's not so overwhelming for your reader. With this particular resume, it's not that difficult to have that in there. Well, the next thing I want to do is create bulleted lists out of these lists of skills and on-the-job duties. Easy to do. I'm going to select from the first down to the last in this area, come up to our bullet feature on the toolbar, click the down arrow, and I recommend using the standard black round circle. When we make a bullet list, we end up saving some space. Notice on this one down here, I haven't created that bullet list yet. I've got an unnecessary line. That goes away once you apply that bullet feature. And there we go. So just within the space of a few minutes applying these styles to the document, it's really coming together and looking a lot easier to glance down and understand what's what. And I've also ended up saving space too. I have these last 2 lines on the page. I don't want to turn them into a bullet list as well. That's just too many bullet lists. I think what I'll do is see, is there any space on the page that I can try to eliminate? I'll turn on the Show Hide button. I don't see any double spaces anywhere where I've hit the Enter key too many times. Let me go back up to the top. I like to look at the margins next to see if there's a way I can save space. Even though it's recommended to have about 1 inch around all sides of a resume document, it isn't really set in stone. So I think that I could save a little space here. That's really generous. Let me go over to the Layout tab and to Margins. And yep, sure enough, this is the default layout Microsoft Word uses, 1 inch around all sides. I'm going to custom create my margins, and I'll say I only need 0.7 at the top and bottom. And that won't impact the look of my document that much. So let me turn off the Show Hide button, and let's scroll down, and there we go. I've got those last 2 lines on the page. I still have that second page there, it's empty. I think if I click here and just hit backspace, that goes away. There was nothing on that page anyway. And now I have a nice looking document. I'm going to zoom out a bit, and that looks really good. It's one option. I would certainly encourage anyone putting a resume together to either go onto the internet or get books with resume samples out to see how you might arrange your own resume after you've chosen your format. What styles might you use to make your information pop off the page?
Well, congratulations. You've completed the video series from Tacoma Public Library on how to build a better resume. I hope you found the information helpful. If you do need more assistance with your resume or you have questions remaining, feel free to reach out to me by email. My email address is rkristoff@tacomalibrary.org. You can also call the library. Staff are available from Tuesday to Saturday between the hours of 9 to 6 p.m. And the library's phone number is 253-292-2001. We also have the option to do Zoom conferences if you'd like to work with a librarian one-on-one to get more assistance with your resume. The library has a lot of great features on its website too for job seekers, and we'd be happy to share those with you. Thanks again for joining us, and I hope to see you again.